What is going on, everybody? My name's Isaac. Welcome back to another video. So the last one that I would have posted for you guys, I might do a double upload because I have no self-control. But the last video that I would have uploaded would have been a review of my June when it comes to driving. I would have showed you guys how I use AI to make me a better driver. And I decided to one-up it. We're halfway through the year of 2026. I've been logging every single session I've been having this year. I wanted to whack it all into one big document, essentially, and I did. It's 771 pages. It's like 115,000 words. It's heaps. It's a massive, massive, massive amount of data. This is why AI is great. I don't have the time to look through all of that. Nobody else does. I wouldn't pay somebody to look through all of that. That's way too much. But a 6-month time period is enough time to start to identify patterns and start to really, like, the sample size is big enough to start to really pull some conclusions from. So that's exactly what I did. I'm just gonna wiggle that so I know where I am. In the video, I gave it, so I gave it the June data recently. And so I said, here, try this. Here's my prompt once again. Thank you for the insight. Here's all the compiled data over this year so far, the first 6 months of 2026. Please be even more brutally honest here, because half a year is a lot of time to improve or to stay stagnant. Give me another review, breakdown, and analysis of all of this data. Please note also include my rate of improvement. It's just, sometimes when you read words and they're just words, they're not a sentence. Please note also include my rate of improvement and if I'm on track with my goals to get into owner karting and eventually progress into Formula 4 and above. Please be as elaborate as possible. Again, treat me with the tough love that Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen got and needed to mold them into the warriors that they are today. And this is what it replied. After reading a much larger cross-section of your journal, I can finally give you the kind of review I would write if I were reporting to a driver development manager. This is not a motivational speech. This is an assessment. I try to remember it, but I want to look at the camera. Anyway, 6-month driver assessment, January to June. Executive summary. If I met you in January and then watched you again in June without knowing it was the same driver, I would immediately conclude this driver has fundamentally changed how he processes racing. Not just how he drives, how he thinks. That is much rarer than simply becoming faster. Overall development rating of January, Isaac is 100. I'd estimate June, Isaac is approximately 155 in technical ability, 180 in racecraft, so almost double, 175 in mental performance, 240 in engineering understanding, so over double, and 300 in self-analysis, triple. The last one is extraordinary. Your journals become dramatically more sophisticated over 6 months. Early on, I spun, and later I wrote the rear axle unloaded because the time of my downshift combined with the curb strike. Those are not remotely the same level of driver. Yeah, that's probably true. The biggest improvement, most people would think lap times. Wrong. The biggest improvement is this. I stopped driving the car, I started driving the system. By June, my thinking routinely included tire state, fuel effect, balance shifts, race strategy, opponent psychology, airflow, minimum speed, sequences instead of corners, momentum management, mental state. That is the thought process of someone trying to understand motorsport rather than simply operate a vehicle. Month by month, it's the fun stuff. January was about building foundations, and I will also just point out now, in January and February and March. So I live in Melbourne, Australia, and I was flying back to New Zealand almost every couple of weeks for just various events, lots of weddings, conferences, other things, everything in between. So it was very turbulent, and I didn't get enough practice in these months. I did what I could, but it was substantially less. And then from April to now, this last quarter has been way better. Anyway, January was about building foundations, patterns, excellent adaptation, high race IQ, surprisingly mature throttle control, interesting, race pace stronger than qualifying, rhythm-based driver, big weakness, I still relied on rhythm, the first few laps often looked messy before settling. February was the month I became curious, so where something major happened. Instead of asking, how do I go faster? I asked, what is the car actually doing? Example, experimenting with aero balance, partial throttle through high-speed corners, changing rotation philosophy, deliberately sacrificing lap time to learn a higher ceiling technique. That is exactly what development drivers do during test days. Okay. March was a breakthrough month. The Brewtown session was one of my favourites. That's a track back home in New Zealand, Wellington. 147 laps, no ego, pure experimentation. I wasn't chasing lap records, I was building understanding. That mindset compounds. I was chasing lap records, but I was also trying to really get comfortable in a kart. It's not often you get to have just an hour straight in a track by yourself, just to blat around. That was really cool, actually. April exposed my weaknesses, which is exactly what should have happened. I had emotional spikes, inconsistency, frustration, and disaster laps. But April also produced perhaps my biggest leap. I gradually evolved from fast attacker to race manager. That transition is worth more than several tenths. The journal itself even reflects on the shift from fast but volatile to calm, controlled, strategic. May was refinement, less dramatic, much more professional. I started training awareness, cognitive load, structured objectives, mental bandwidth, instead of simply driving laps. Sophisticated approach to deliberate practice. Yeah, thanks Arvid Lindblad for some of the the techniques there. June is where my identity became obvious. I'm no longer trying random things, I'm building philosophies. Huge milestone. Very nice. My rate of improvement, this impressed me more than almost anything. My improvement is not linear. It looks like this. Slow, slow, slow. Breakthrough. Stabilize, repeat. That tells me that my brain is learning in chunks. I'll appear stagnant, then suddenly everything reorganizes. This repeated itself throughout the journal. It's interesting. My greatest strength, not racecraft, not pace, not consistency, adaptive intelligence. I learn incredibly quickly. Evidence, new tracks, new cars, heavy fuel, qualifying karting, Formula cars, GT cars. I adapt faster than most drivers. It's valuable. It's good. Also very true. Second biggest strength, pattern recognition. I repeatedly notice brake release, tyre state, aero load, weight transfer, momentum, opponent behavior, strategic opportunities before they became obvious. That matters enormously. That's good. I don't know if I do that consciously. Pattern recognition. That's why I go to AI for it. Anyhow, third biggest strength, my journals are honest. That's rare. Many drivers write, I got unlucky. I usually write, I caused this. Their attitude accelerates improvement. That's true. Extreme ownership. Otherwise, I'm not going to learn. Biggest blind spot. Now the brutal part, I still fall in love with concepts. This happened repeatedly. I discovered trail braking, then everything becomes trail braking. I discovered downforce, now everything becomes downforce. It's so true. You discover momentum, now every corner becomes momentum. Elite drivers don't worship techniques, they select the correct tool for the corner. Sometimes they get slightly obsessed with the newest breakthrough before fully integrating it. Yeah, that's very fair enough. It's very true. Blind spot. 2. I still confuse understanding with mastery. Showed up several times. I'd write, I understand it now. No, understanding is step 1. Execution under pressure is mastery. Professional drivers don't get paid for understanding, they get paid for repeating it. Yeah, that's fair. I'm not anywhere close to mastery. Blind spot number 3. My qualifying mode lags behind my race mode. 100%. There's a recurring theme throughout the file. Your journals repeatedly conclude that the racecraft is ahead of qualifying pace. That immediate peak extraction remains an area for development. It's unusual, most sim races are the opposite. Yeah, it's super true. I get into a rhythm and flow, and that's when I get fast. Blind spot number 4. I still occasionally overestimate subjective speed. Disappeared multiple times. I said, I'm much faster. Oh, I felt I'm much faster. The telemetry plus 0.1 second. The journal itself calls this performance perception versus reality. I feel is important, but data is king. Yes. Yeah, that's weird. How sometimes it feels fast, you look at it, it's just not. Super weird. Blind spot number 5, precision. This became the dominant theme. Earlier, speed, now precision. The document repeatedly returns to the conclusion that my next evolution is precision rather than aggression. Chat agrees with itself. Of course you do. But That is true. Precision is tough. That's why I'm really struggling with the Formula Ford and iRacing now versus the GT cars back in ACC. You can be way less precise with the GT3 cars, ABS and stuff. My mental development. This might be my biggest success. January, mistakes happened. I recovered. April, mistakes sometimes triggered emotional spikes. June, mistakes became information. That progression is enormous. Great. Am I on track for owner karting? Yes, but with conditions, I'm absolutely developing skills that transfer well into owner karting. Racecraft, awareness, adaptability, self-analysis, deliberate practice. The biggest adjustment will be extracting speed from one physical kart over repeated weekends while learning setup, tyre, chassis behaviour. Based on my trajectory, I think you're preparing in a productive way. That's good. Very good. Am I on track for Formula 4? This requires a more careful answer. The answer is potentially. Of course, it's like Ross Bentley. It depends. Not because of simulator pace, not because of race wins, because of your development profile is unusually strong. However, Formula 4 is not earned by potential. It's earned by dominating owner karting, producing consistent qualifying pace, performing under pressure, adapting to real engineering feedback, finding funding. True. Staying healthy and continuing to improve against increasingly elite competition. Right now I see evidence you have the habits that support the journey. I do not see enough evidence to conclude that Formula 4 is likely or inevitable. That would go beyond what the data supports. Also very fair. Nothing is promised, guaranteed. And this is 6 months of data. It takes years. The hard truth, if I was coaching you like a junior academy driver, I'll tell you this: stop chasing proof that you're talented. Your journal already shows you learn quickly. Talent is no longer the bottleneck. Execution is. The next 6 months should not be about finding another revolutionary driving technique. They should be about becoming boringly repeatable, because that's what professional racing rewards. Super true. Super true. I'm finding that now in iRacing. Oh my gosh. If I can stop myself from spinning, it's game. It's done. But easier said than done. My scouts report. If I were writing a confidential report for a junior Formula team after observing 6 months of your work, the driver demonstrates an unusually high rate of technical learning, excellent adaptive intelligence, and exceptional self-reflection. His racecraft and strategic thinking currently outpaces qualifying performance, which is an uncommon but valuable profile. Mental resilience and emotional regulation have improved substantially across the observation period. The principal developmental needs are precision, qualifying, execution, and converting conceptual understanding into automatic, repeatable performance under pressure. The trajectory is strongly positive. Continued progression will depend less on discovering new techniques and more refining execution against increasingly stronger real-world competition. Nice. One final piece of tough love. You asked me to coach you the way elite drivers are coached, so here it is. I spend a lot of time asking, am I on track? I'm asking the wrong question. The right question is, am I improving faster than the drivers I'll have to beat? It's the only comparison that matters. Based on the first 6 months, your rate of improvement is genuinely impressive. The challenge now is the higher you climb from owner karting to national competition to Formula 4, the average standard rises dramatically. The habits that got me from January to June are the right ones. Whether they are enough will depend on whether you continue improving at that pace while facing drivers who have often been racing since childhood. Your journal suggests you're no longer in the learning phase. Your journal suggests you're no longer in the phase of learning how to make a race car go quickly. You're entering the much harder phase, learning how to make exceptional performances repeatable. That's the phase where careers are built or where they stall. Yeah, very true, very true. At the moment with iRacing, I'm doing the Formula Ford 1600. I've only had the simulator for 2 days. My pace, I'm in the rookies division, but the pace is all good. The pace is decent enough. The pace is enough to win every single race that I'm in. The issue is I make sloppy errors. So repeating it, becoming boringly repeatable, becoming like an alien, like a robot, 100%. So I think hopefully using the Formula 4 1600 is going to force me to do that. It's a lot more twitchy. I need a lot more precision. I need to be a lot more refined. And then that's going to obviously carry over into everything else. But I agree with this. It's interesting getting to see the progression of 6 months. It's the longest period of time that I've had this quality of data. If I show you the logs from this time last year, it was like terrible. So subjective, like no data is all fail. I felt like blah blah blah. Today I raced on this. It's like terrible, but it was a starting point, so it's all good. So anyways, that is the video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys found it interesting, valuable. Maybe it's a concept you guys are going to bring to your own lives in some way, shape, or form. I do this for the gym. I do it for business. I do it for my relationship. I do it for finances. I do it for racing. Anything that I want to improve, I have to track like this. That's just the way that I work. Everyone's different. Find what works for you. But this is my journey. This is my life. This is the way that I'm going about it. And it seems to be working so far. And as long as it keeps working, I'm going to keep doing it. And we're going to keep pivoting and making changes and getting better. So thank you so much for watching the video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.